I'm being joined by Professor Andrew Latham, author and professor of political science at the Macalester College in York University, USA. Thank you for joining us, sir. Firstly, this swearing-in ceremony, although has been moved indoor now due to the cold, will be a significant one, considering that there are a lot of firsts that come with the Trump's term.
I'm not sure I'm hearing you all that well, but if it's TikTok that we're talking about, Trump has changed his mind on this because it has opened a door for him with the youth vote, which was, I think, dispositive. That really changed the outcome of the election. So I think we're going to see, there's going to be a tension here between, on the one hand, concerns about national security and, the Chinese Communist Party, et cetera, et cetera. On the other hand, there are lots of constituencies in the US that like TikTok. And, navigating and negotiating that tension is going to be what's going to happen in the next few months at least.
Right, this also comes at a time when Xi Jinping is expected to skip the inauguration that Trump will be holding as well. But although Trump has promised that there could be perhaps a way to find out and figure out if TikTok can still continue operating in the United States.
Well, that's, it's going to continue operating because it's very popular. It's just a matter of how it's going to continue, under what kind of legal premises it's going to continue to operate. Whether the Chinese Communist Party is going to have to sort of be divested from this. I've got two kids who really like TikTok, and they learn a lot. And so there's that. There's the access to all kinds of information and insights, but there's also, right now, Chinese Communist Party propaganda. If you go on TikTok and you ask anything about Taiwan or the Uyghurs, it's not really neutral. It's very biased in terms of, from the perspective of the CCP. So, we're having to navigate this. On the one hand, it is a fantastic medium. On the other hand, it is a fantastic and not just a kind of vehicle for Chinese communist propaganda, but also collecting data on people, right? So it, like most political issues on the planet, it is very complicated. There are multiple and diverse pressures and things going on. And it remains to be seen how this particular incoming administration is going to navigate and negotiate this. My sense is that the incoming Trump administration is going to be basically not all that hostile towards TikTok.
Right. As far as Trump's inauguration is concerned, what can we expect to be his priority in terms of policy making in his upcoming term, sir?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that question.
Trump's priority in policy making in his upcoming term, what can we expect from the next Trump term?
Well, in terms of foreign policy, I think we can expect a much more assertive, pro-American MAGA kind of foreign policy, especially with respect to Israel and Palestine. I think we're going to see a much more assertive, very pro-American perspective. If I were to broaden out the vista a little bit and thinking about how this administration is going to tackle the big picture of American foreign policy, again, I think it's going to be much more assertive. It's going to be much more challenging for China, for example. I would imagine that there's going to be a serious doubling down on the relationship with India, for example. I think that this incoming administration is going to really put the hammers to the Europeans to get them to take up their responsibilities with respect to Russia and just European security. And then we're going to see the pivot, to use a term of art from a few years back. We're going to see a pivot in America's interest to the Indo-Pacific. And that's where I see American foreign policy moving under this new administration, making the Europeans do their own security and then pivoting in terms of America's relationships with countries like India, perhaps Pakistan, certainly the ASEAN countries. That's where I see things going.
Right, Professor Latham, now immigration and unemployment are one of the key issues that a lot of voters in the United States are talking about. So how can we expect Trump to tackle those issues?
Well, yeah, immigration, if I heard you correctly, immigration is a huge thing. And I think we're going to see a doubling down in terms of enforcement of the southern border of the United States, but also increasingly the northern border with Canada, which has been a huge issue in Canada for the last couple of weeks. How does the United States get control of its borders in ways that minimize the influx of not just illegal immigrants? I'm a two-time immigrant, so I'm very pro-immigration, but controlling the inflow of drugs, fentanyl, for example, controlling the inflow of criminals, and also just controlling the inflow of migrants. So I think we're going to see a doubling down. On the one hand, legal immigration, lawful immigration, I don't think that's going to be an issue, but really doubling down on the unlawful immigration.
Right.
On the southern border and the northern border, I think that's going to be a big thing.
Thank you, Professor Latham, for joining us and sharing those insights on this story.